What if everything you thought you knew about inclusion was wrong? What if the biggest barriers weren't policies but people? And what if one of those people was you? They say inclusion is a box you tick. I say it's a mirror you hold up. And sometimes the reflection isn't easy to look at. In season 1 of The Organisational Inclusionist, we sat in those uncomfortable spaces together. We heard stories that changed how we see leadership, equity, and each other. Season 2 is not about repeating the same conversations. It's about going deeper. It's about asking the questions polite company avoids. Pulling back the curtain, not just on the boardroom, but on the biases we carry home with us, the policies we never question, and the silences that keep us safe, but not free. This season, you'll hear voices that challenge you, moments that move you, and strategies you can actually use. And I won't pretend to have all the answers, because I'm still learning too. But I promise you this, every conversation will be honest, human, and rooted in the belief that inclusion is not a side project, it's the work. My name is Grace Masuro, and I am your host. Welcome to season 2 of The Organisational Inclusionist.
Welcome everyone to today's episode of The Organisational Inclusionist. My name is Grace Masuro and I am your host. And today I am joined by Georgina Wilson. We are going to have a conversation about fearless leadership, closing the wealth gap and building power that lasts. Less than 1% of corporate spending goes to global majority-led businesses. That's not a gap, it's an exclusion. Georgina Wilson isn't here to shrink that number, she's here to blow it wide open. As the founder and CEO of Bud Leaders, Georgina has spent over a decade building platforms, partnerships, and pipelines for Black and global majority women entrepreneurs in the UK and across Europe. Her mission is bold, to double their revenue by 2030, putting a collective 50 million back into the hands of women who've been systematically shut out. But this isn't just a story about one woman's ambition. It's a masterclass in how to navigate gatekeepers, turn allyship into action, and grow a business that doesn't just survive inequality, it outpaces it. So this is a conversation I'm really excited about, and I know that a number of people are going to take a lot from it. By the end of this conversation, you'll walk away with the 3 biggest mistakes that keep minority-owned businesses invisible to corporate buyers and how to fix them. A step-by-step way to expand your own network, or some ideas around how you can expand your own network for opportunity, and the mindset shift that will keep you fearless even when the system is working against you. So listen closely. Thank you so much for joining me today, Georgina. Really, really happy to have you.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here, and I am very excited about this conversation.
Yay. So we met, I don't even know how we met. I feel like it's a mix of like LinkedIn and a mutual friend and networks and all of that stuff. But really, really excited to have you today. Before we get stuck into the conversation though, I'd love it if you could give a short intro to our listeners on who Georgina is and the work that you do.
Yeah, so I am Georgina Wilson. I am founder and CEO of Bud Leaders. And really what I'm here to do is to change systems. Everything comes under systems change because there has been so much disparity, so much discrimination, so much that really makes my heart bleed. You know, the things that I'm involved in, the things that I'm taking part of, feel really, really good in a sense that we're trying to change things. But it's really quite sad, actually, that we're in this day and age and having to continue to create more and more opportunities for Black and global majority businesses. So I run Bud Leaders. I've been doing so for, as you said, over a decade, which is amazing. But we exist to close that gap. We exist to ensure that there are more networks, more opportunities, more access to funding, and more access to supply chains for Black and global majority businesses, and supporting those that want to create change, who have power and influence, to be able to think about the ways in which they can do that and to implement them so that there's something practical and tangible for Black and global majority business leaders to take forward.
Amazing. Thank you. The work you do is it's really courageous, right? In a space essentially that can sometimes make it really challenging. Now, one of the things that I'm really conscious of is, and it's going to sound so random, but I love, like my 13-year-old daughter is fearless. Like she she hasn't yet had that, because I feel like kids are born fearless. They kind of, they will try and touch a flame because they haven't got a clue kind of what comes with that and things like that. And then I think as we get older and become adults, the world can sometimes beat that out of us, particularly women, especially Black and global majority women. So fearless leadership isn't a personality trait necessarily by the time we are adults. It's a choice. What are the daily practices or habits that you use to stay fearless in your work?
Yeah, it's really interesting that you spoke about your daughter. And I would say, well, lots of people do actually say that I'm very much a bit of a contradiction. So I can be this like really bold, courageous leader, but I'm also just pretty much a big kid. So I'm the one that's gonna be trying to do cartwheels or, run around the room and doing all of that sort of thing. And the reason why I mention that is because I think you still got to keep that childlike energy in everything. And that's about just saying, do you know what? We're just going to have some fun. So every day I'm like, how can I make this day feel like really fun? How can I bring the passion? How can I bring the vibe into this day? Because this is hard work. This is not easy work that we're involved in. But I'm like, I need to enjoy the ride. I need to enjoy the journey. And it is a bit of a roller coaster, but are you going to, sit there with your arms folded, on this ride? Or are you going to have your hands up and go like, way, we're on this roller coaster. So I try to approach every day like, okay, what's the joy that I'm going to bring? But what's the joy that I'm going to receive? And how can I also reflect on some of those moments where things have gone really well, or somebody said something that's meant so much to me that I can hold on to, that I can keep to say, right, I've got enough to step into and to lean into something that feels a bit fearful, or something which feels a bit uncomfortable, which kind of naturally I'm not looking forward to. However, I'm just going to go for it. So I see things as a bit of a game. I enjoy it. They can be very serious, but I'm like, hey, I'm just going to do it. We're just going to go for it. And actually, my mantra is always, what is the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
And actually, so what if it does? Like, what's the worst that can happen if we step into something which might be a bit challenging? Not much, really.
No, I love that. It's funny, you just reminded me, I've been doom scrolling a lot the last couple of days, and I watched this Instagram video, and it said if you knew that you only had 30 more mistakes that you could make in this lifetime before you achieved your greatest success, how quickly would you make those mistakes?
Exactly.
It's amazing. Like when you think about things, it's all about repositioning, isn't it? And just really just thinking about things a little bit more differently. So
Yeah.
I mentioned during your intro about your audacious goal of putting 50 million back in the hands of women who've been systematically shut out. What can individual business owners do today to start positioning themselves to be part of that number?
Yeah, I think there's so much that we can do, and there is so much information that's being shared and lots of things that you can get involved in nowadays with social media. You talked about scrolling on our phones and all of this stuff. So I feel like we are like consuming so much nowadays. There's so much that we are just consuming, but for me the key thing is taking action. So stop learning more and more and more and more and more things, and decide that you're going to take action. And it's almost like we've become really comfortable just consuming. We've become really relaxed of like, yeah, I'm just learning this thing, I'm just reading this book, I'm just going to this event, I'm just all of these things. But the difficult things are the things that require us to step out. So I think it's really about knowing exactly what it is that you're trying to achieve. So goal setting, you can never go wrong with that, in a sense of like, what is it that I'm hoping to achieve? Making sure that it's really smart. And actually just by writing down your goal, you're 70% more likely to achieve it just in that fact on its own. But actually if you make it smart as well. So Write down something which is really specific that you want to achieve, and then start to take action, build the action plan around it. Some of my friends, we meet every year and we make goals. It's our ritual. We've been doing that for the past 6 years. It's been great. What we realize is that it's all good us meeting, and writing down all these like big, great, audacious goals. But unless we've got the steps that help us to achieve those goals, they're just really nice bits of writing on a bit of paper. Do you know what I mean? So it's about setting those goals, but thinking about the steps that need to be taken in order to achieve those goals. And I'm talking about financial goals as well. I think sometimes, especially as Black women, we shy away from like, I want to achieve this specific financial goal. And it's time for us to take some of those limitations off. And it's not like, oh, I want to acquire another customer. I want to do this. No, we should be saying, I want to be a multimillionaire. Great, you set that goal. Why are we limiting ourselves? So set some what they call BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals. I don't know where the hairy comes in. I've never liked the hairy bit, but
No, does not sound cute at all.
Bags doesn't sound as good, right? But some big goals. Let's just set some big goals. Let's work towards them, and let's also measure them. Okay, these are my goals. How often are you going to check in with yourself to see what your progress is, see where you might need to pivot, where you might need to adapt, and to celebrate the things along the journey? And as I said, it's about the action. So the only way you're going to achieve those goals is if you keep on knocking on doors, if you keep on asking. That's part of the kind of the BFF side of things. It's like the more things that you ask for, the more value that you add, that equals success. And the BFF is basically Black fearless female. How do we become Black fearless female? By adding value, asking, which leads to success.
I think that's one of the biggest things as well, sorry to interrupt you, is that asking piece, particularly for Black women. It's hard.
Exactly. That's it. And I was going to say, what is it that you need and who have you asked for it? Like we were having this little bit of a conversation before. It's like sometimes we have so many things that we need, right? And we're just like hoping and wishing and praying that all these things just come, they just arrive. But actually we need to be asking. And the more things that you ask for, the more things that come. And again, I always say, if you don't ask, you don't get. But if you do ask and you do get, something has changed. But if you ask and nothing happens, you're just in the same place as you were before.
Exactly. I've said this a couple of times to people, is I feel like my daughter has got this down to a T. She knows that just ask, keep asking, because eventually you'll get it. Like for her, no is just a theory. She hears it often enough, but I don't think she registers it. And I'd love for her to keep that energy, because I do think that the world kind of takes it away. But I need to take a leaf out of her book actually and just be like, meh, can I have it? Can you do this? Can you do that? Just with the expectation that you'll have it. I think there's something in just having that courage, right? And being fearless in that sense. One of the things that I know that founders find really difficult, when I worked in the corporate world, and if I reached out to a stakeholder or whoever for a conversation or with an ask, it was always so much easier because I had a big brand behind me. I had a big corporation. So they weren't just saying yes to me, they were saying yes to whoever the organization was as well. But when you step out by yourself as a founder, it does feel a lot harder to get those yeses. For the founders who feel like corporate doors are closed to them, what are the first 3 practical steps to getting noticed from your perspective?
From what I've seen work really well, one thing that you've mentioned is around having a big brand behind you. And really, brands are just stories, they're stories that we believe. And so it's really understanding what your story is and building a brand around that story. And there's this one thing that I've looked at, which is kind of the story brands concept, and it has these 7 principles, which you'll find in anything that you ever watch. Now I can't watch a film or anything like that because I know the exact things that are going to happen. But actually, if we understand those things as businesses, then we can present ourselves in this way. And that's what's going to hook organizations into that. And I'll do it as quickly as I possibly can. But every story has, number one, a hero.
Mm.
And number two, that hero always has a challenge. And three, appears a guide. There's always a guide. And that guide, which is number four, gives them a plan. And number five is that guide then calls them to action with that plan. Six, helps them to avoid failure. And seven, it always ends in success. And so in the world of business, the hero is our customer, is the corporate person, is the the client that we're trying to reach out to. They are always the hero, and we are the guide. And so if we can tell our story in terms of how we are supporting them as the hero, we're going to capture their attention. It's really about allowing whoever it is that you're trying to reach to, because it's always a person, no matter what. There's always somebody behind, that contract that's actually making the decision. So if we can convey what it is that we're offering in that way, then it's going to help for us to secure those contracts. So the ability to tell stories in a way that's compelling, that's going to get the attention of those who are going to, sign the contract is really, really important. So that's number one. And then number two is really about remaining in people's memory. So a lot of the time, sometimes we're just like, I'm just going to go to this one event. I'm just going to book this one conversation. I'm just going to do this one thing. But there's so much value in remaining in front of people's memory. And that might be turning up at events. It might be in your social media. It might just be that, hey, I saw this great, thing online. I thought it'd be really good. I thought it'd be useful for you. Just like pop it in your inbox or, slide it into your DMs about, this particular thing. And the more you keep doing that, it's like, how do you stand out from the crowd? And also make sure that your whatever you're doing is valuable. The worst thing is just having somebody reach out to you that doesn't know why they're reaching out to you and what it is that they're offering as well. And then also think about how you can actually start to collaborate with others as well. If you can't get your foot in the door straight away, think about who else is already working with them, that maybe there's some contracts that you could go through together and start to build relationships with some of those tier 1, tier 2 suppliers, so that eventually you can keep growing. That's how, I grew in Bud. I started off just literally on my own. I did a lot of collaborations, which I still love to do anyway, because I think there's always more power in different kind of experiences and heads. But that's what allowed me to kind of, begin to get my own contracts and so forth as well.
Amazing. I think the other thing that I'd add to that is also be really clear on the role you're going to play in any collaboration and get it down in writing. Because I think sometimes when we first start out, we can have these really fluffy, nice conversations that we think we're having with our friends. But in business, it's really, really good to make sure you have your terms agreed in writing. And I think sometimes, especially for new founders, you can forget that bit, and it can sometimes mean that someone in the party is disappointed at the end of it because you haven't articulated what that commercial relationship is going to look like. So that's just something I'd add to anyone listening to that. But no, I think the collaboration piece that you mentioned is so, so powerful and so important. It's a great space for you to learn as well as a new founder. So you've worked across the UK and Europe. What cultural or strategic lessons have you learned that could help women expand beyond their local market?
Yeah, I think, again, a lot from the work that I've done, I think a lot of the barriers that I've seen are just literally in our minds. So there's something about like even believing that you could start to work, outside of like, your local area, or just the companies that you've worked with, over a period of time, is a massive leap. So it's like, oh my gosh, I could potentially work in Europe or wider, I could be a global organization. So there's something about having a mind shift in all of this that's really, really important, and believing that you actually can do some of these things. And then it's really just about how you expand your network, because if you're only going to be exposed to the proximity of the people that are around you. So it is about, extending yourself into wider networks, understanding what it means to work in different landscapes as well. So you've got some really good programs delivered by the Department for Business and Trade. They're all available for free around the kind of the Export Academy and so forth as well. So get that education, understand what some of those legislations are, what the ways that you need to work in different countries, because they've all got their own different terms and the way that they work, and the key things around international trade, depending on the type of business that you have. But educate yourself ultimately is what I'm saying. Increase your networks, and seek out new opportunities and new people to speak to as well, around that. And one great thing as well is that if you do secure contracts with corporates, quite often they are global, or they do have networks across the pond. So start to explore, even with some of those existing clients, how can we do some work in other areas as well, in other continents, in other spaces. Yeah.
No, amazing. Thank you. And I think LinkedIn is such a great tool for that as well, because I've met so many people and I've done work in the States, for example, purely because of LinkedIn connections. So don't sleep on LinkedIn as an opportunity to kind of take your work outside of the UK if you are based here, or, if you're based somewhere else and you want to kind of step out.
I agree. Yeah, and just to add to that, I think LinkedIn is a great networking platform, but unless you're asking, unless you're like connecting, and unless you're like building those conversations, it's not going to come to you. So yeah, I think there's something still around that asking and building as well.
Sure, definitely. So I remember coming across Bud because one of my oldest friends was working there at the time, and she recommended a program that you were delivering. And so I've seen firsthand the amazing work that you're doing to support entrepreneurs. When you think back over the years and the work that you've been doing at Bud, is there one success story that really stands out for you? And can you share kind of what that entrepreneur did right from your perspective, while they were with Bud, or after they finished that piece of learning with you guys?
Yeah, it's so hard to narrow it down to one particular person, because this journey has been, it's been going for a while, and the stories are the things that keep me going. And when you have those conversations with people about what it's meant to be on a program, or like what they've been able to achieve as a result of working with us, there aren't really words that can describe it. But there's one particular lady that comes to mind, who was really, really nervous about starting her product-based business, and actually being able to articulate that business, being able to think about how they would generate income from that business as well. And that's something that I've recognized, that within our culture, we want to start businesses. A lot of us are starting businesses, but actually, how can we start thinking about the profit lines, the profit margins? That's something that I found is a bit of a challenge. But anyway, we were able to really work out how to make it a viable business, and how to make and generate some money from that over a period of time. But then it was really, again, building the confidence to be able to start to pitch, and to build the pitch decks up, and all of those things. And then seeing her go to events and pluck up the courage to speak to more and more people, to the point where she was able to pitch to a large corporate, and now her products are actually in some of their stores. And it's fantastic, absolutely incredible. So yeah, but that's a journey, that's a journey over a period of time. And there's different people that start at different levels, but I think it's just the ability to keep showing up, to continue to push through, to recognize that failure isn't final, that you can just dust yourself off.
I think you should do that as some promo merch, failure is not final, because it is so simple but so powerful. Like it's made me kind of wake up a little bit, and I'm not feeling 100%, and I'm like, it's not. one of the things that I'm really aware of in the work that I do, so I bid for a number of corporate tenders, and the wording or the language you regularly see on those tenders is that, yes, this tender is open to SMEs. We really want a diverse supply chain, this, that, and the other. But it can sometimes feel like supplier diversity is just a buzzword, because when we look at the spend and where that traditionally goes, it doesn't necessarily speak to that. So what's one way from your perspective and the work that you've done that a small business can turn corporate interest or, a corporate opportunity into an actual signed contract?
People buy from people ultimately, and I'm not necessarily saying that you shouldn't do RFPs, and tenders and all of those things. But if there's somebody in the decision-making team that has an experience of working with you or understands you, then I think you're going to get a little bit more credibility and an opportunity to go forward in different ways. And also, there's a lot of contracts that happen behind the scenes that don't go through the whole big sort of tendering process. So it is about building relationships and showcasing what you're able to do. We've done a lot of things where we've initially done something maybe complimentary or discounted, knowing that we're not just doing it for the sake of it, but that there's a potential opportunity at the end of this. And because people have had such great experiences, they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, we'd love to get you in. We'd love for you to speak to this person. They connect us. But a lot of people just talk and say things, right? So people want to see the evidence. They want to experience it. They want to feel things. They want to know that what you're saying adds up. So if you can show that in any way, that's always going to get you in front of the right people and give you a bit more of a advantage in terms of things that you're trying to apply for. But also, if you can get in the areas where you don't have to go for the big tender, so it might just be like a $5,000 contract doing something like really small, and you might be aiming for the 150, 200 grand contract. But if you start at the $5,000 contract and you show that you can deliver, that you're on time, that it's really good value, you just keep building and building and building to the point where they're just like, no, we just need to work with this person. We know what we're going to get, and we're going to work with them. And supply diversity is really interesting as a buzzword, because the Procurement Act is saying that there's a lot of social value clauses specifically around those that are working in kind of public sector, and some of that does fall into working with Black and global majority businesses. However, I don't want us to hide behind that in that sense. I don't want us to be like tokenistic, or for us to have to be like a tick box. It's like, you need to hire me because I'm great. Like, you need to work with our organization because we are fantastic and we can deliver. And that is the truth for, loads and loads of global majority businesses. But we need to be showing up in that way so that we just become a great supplier. We just happen to be Black and global majority.
No, absolutely. So I've harped on a lot about entrepreneurs and getting your insights for them, because selfishly I am one. But for people listening who aren't entrepreneurs, what are 3 concrete actions that they can take to support global majority women in business?
Yeah, I really don't like the whole kind of like savior mentality of like, oh yes, these discriminated against organizations, what can I do, and come in and save. We understand that. We've watched all the programs, with people going to the only quote unquote poor nation in the world, which seems to be Africa, going in with and I'm sick of that. What I would love to see, especially around kind of allyship, and I've got a lot of really, really good allies in my network, is like, what is it that you can offer as a tangible solution? Not just like, oh, like this might be nice, or even mentorship is good. It's really, really helpful. Like, I've got loads of really good mentors, but the ones that stand out are the ones that say, right, I'm going to connect you to this particular person. I'm going to invite you along to this particular event. I'm going to I'm going to ask you to speak at this one because I know this person is in the room. Go and speak to that person over there because they're the ones that are looking for X, Y, Z. So what's the tangible, like real kind of hands-on support that you can offer? And also, like, can you check my bids? Like, can you look at it and tell me? Because I don't have, cousin Joe who's working in procurement that can tell me, like, this is really good. Actually, this is really bad. And, go down this route and go down that route. So help us build our social capital as well, specifically help us to think about who we can connect with, but also what are some of those things that maybe we haven't been exposed to because we haven't started at the same position as you, that you can help open some doors and give us insight into as well. And just simply increase spending money with us. Like,
Right.
Just look at who's on the table and say they might all be offering the same thing, but we have only had 1% spend. So just spend some money with us, just go out of your way and say, you know what, I'm gonna create an opportunity here. I'm gonna be the one. It's gonna be me that's gonna open this door and I'm gonna create this opportunity.
No, for sure. For sure. There are so many kind of experiences that I've had and I think this really speaks to that collaboration piece, is sometimes feeling like as a Black woman, you have to be under the umbrella of an organization that's led by someone who is white in order for you to get access to opportunities. And I think that my biggest call to action would be we need to change that narrative, because it is a reality for many Black and global majority founders, is actually we should be able to go for opportunities in our own right because we know that those opportunities are open to us. But thank you for that. I always like to end the episode with a bit of a call to action. So I know you've got your really bold and audacious 2030 vision. What's one behavior that you want every listener to adopt from today onwards to support them on their journey as an entrepreneur, a founder, or someone who wants to kind of change what the experience of global majority and Black founders are?
Thank you. I'm a big believer in the compound effect. And so, again, there's so much information, there's so many things we could do. But I would love for everybody to make one specific goal that they can have to contribute towards this bigger goal, which is about bringing £50 million into Black and global majority businesses. And that can be in any of those 4 areas that I'd mentioned earlier, which is about expanding networks, creating more routes to market and supply chains, around investment, and around building skills. So what I will say to that goal is, what's one thing that you could do like every day? It might be that, oh my gosh, I'm just going to like send a message, or I'm going to even like somebody's post on LinkedIn because the rest of my network will see it. And create more exposure, just like that one thing. And as all of those ones like kind of build together, we will see change. So create that goal and do one thing every day towards it, however small it is.
No, I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me today, Georgina. I think that, and I know that the work that you're doing is so, so important, but I also know there's so much that people can learn from the work that you're doing. So I really appreciate you coming and sharing your knowledge with listeners today. To anyone listening, Georgina isn't just closing the wealth gap, she's building a playbook so the rest of us can do it too. If you heard something today you can act on, please don't just sit on it. Apply it, share it, and tell us what changes you see. Connect with Georgina on LinkedIn and just connect with her. There's so much you can learn from her, but also I'm sure she wouldn't mind some DMs with your success stories or anything you've taken from today's episode. But essentially, in doing this work and taking some of this advice, that's how 50 million becomes 100 million and a movement becomes unstoppable. So I wish each and every person listening to this episode that identifies as being Black or a global majority female is to become unstoppable. And we just wish you all the best of luck. Georgina, how can people connect with you?
Yeah, like you said, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. Georgina Wilson B. And I look forward to connecting, look forward to all the stories, but also however I can help. My mission here is to help and support. So whatever I can do, I'd be really, really happy to be involved.
Amazing. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
If you've listened this far, you already know. Inclusion isn't a statement on a website. It's the choices we make every day in rooms where no one's watching. Season 2 of The Organisational Inclusionist is my invitation to you to listen harder, to act braver, to see the person in front of you fully, and to be willing to change because of it. We're not here to tick boxes. We're here to rewrite the way organisations think, feel, and treat people. Because when inclusion becomes the culture, not the initiative, everyone rises.